Today, welcome to the DFA Member Zone. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to the latest posts covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Well, we finally got there. After spending quite a few months in development, I'm pleased to say that the DFA membership area is now available. We're making it available first to those who signed up via Patreon to the US $50 a month tier, but we'll probably extend that later. But today what I want to do is to take you through what's currently in the membership zone and also talk a little bit more about what's coming later. Now here you can see the entry page, and those with a set of access credentials are able to navigate to the other pages. And within the overall portal, we have a section highlighting mortgage and financial stress. And you'll have seen me demonstrate this in recent times on the live shows, but now you can do this for yourselves. So you can put in a postcode. I'll pick 2000 to start with. Press lookup, and that brings us the information for this particular postcode, which includes Dawes Point, Haymarket, Millers Point, Sydney and the Rocks. And as I've described previously on our shows, you get the number of households, those borrowing, those renting, the numbers of property for rent, the number of rental property owners in the area, and the proportion in overall financial stress. Now, financial stress, of course, is something that we measure in terms of cash flow, money in, money out. And it's quite a good way of trying to get a sense of what's really going on with individual households and their finances. And then we can look at the stress data, the mortgage stress data in particular, and we also identify those that are in severe mortgage stress and the percentage of households borrowing with a mortgage who are in stress, and some estimates on default, both in count and percentage terms. And then we can move on to rental stress and the proportion and count of those in rental stress. And finally, we look at investor stress, again, the proportion of property investors who are stressed, and that can be either from a cash flow perspective or trying to sell and not being able to sell their property, or having a vacant property that they're trying to rent. And we also can identify what proportion are in severe stress and the percentage of households that are actually impacted. Now, in each case, severe stress or severe mortgage stress is defined clearly as deeply negative in terms of cash flow. And the other feature we offer with this particular tool is a set of trends relating to mortgage stress. In fact, we go back over the last few months and we can show the movements of mortgage stress, rental stress, financial stress overall, and investor stress. And combined, this information gives us quite a good feel of what's going on in the particular area. Now I'm going to pick another postcode. So here I am now over in Western Australia, and in the postcode 6000 you can see there that we've got 6,800 households, of which 1,300 are borrowing, 5,200 are renting. There are just over 3,900 properties for rent, and we have around 2,370 property investors. Overall financial stress is 57%, which is relatively high. Then we can move into our home ownership area and look at those in mortgage stress. Relatively small count, but a relatively high proportion of those who've borrowed. And the default rates at 4% are slightly higher than down the East Coast at the moment. Rental stress is sitting at 38%, which is just over 2,000 households, and investor stress is around 57%, which is around 1,300 stressed investors. And once again, you can see how the trends have moved in recent times. The rental stress one in particular has been quite volatile, but significantly is rising quite fast now. And that is partly to do with the fact that there are some people getting kicked out of their rental accommodation and others who are being faced with rental rises. And because of that, overall investor stress is down a little, although it's still quite high. Now I'm just going to do one more. I'll just go to Hobart and we'll look at Hobart in comparison. And there's around 7,000 households, of which 1,900 are borrowing, 3,800 are renting, 2,800 properties for rent, and there are around 2,200 rental property owners, and only 28% are in financial stress. So relative to the other postcodes we looked at, that's quite low. The mild mortgage stress is over 1,100, and in fact that's 60% of households with a mortgage. And that's because down in Tasmania we've seen significant rises in prices and bigger mortgages, whilst income has been very static indeed. Default rates are at 3%. Rental stress is quite low at 14%, and investor stress at the moment is quite low, around 10%. So we can see that in this particular postcode, which includes Glebe, Hobart, Mount Stewart, North Hobart and West Hobart, the real story is mortgage stress. And it's worth highlighting that that has been rising quite fast, and this is also partly to do with the end of the mortgage holiday repayments and also the end of JobKeeper and JobSeeker. Now, in addition to the mortgage stress series, which is available for every postcode in the country, we can also switch to our projections tab. Now, I should say that these projections are currently being made available as a special offer to those at the $50 tier on Patreon. This is not a normal part of the offer, but we've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 months to attract a few more people to come in and subscribe. So if I take a postcode, let's go to Wollongong 2500. What we can see now is an estimation of what may happen with regard to home prices over the next 3 years. And again, we start with a list of suburbs included, and then we have our different scenarios. And this is based on our normal scenario modelling. So we're suggesting that in the bullish case, we see significant rises for houses, and indeed even bigger rises for units in Wollongong over 3 years. But if you take a more neutral scenario, or indeed a bearish scenario, and that would assume that the virus doesn't get under control and the borders don't open as fast and the vaccines don't get rolled out, then the bearish case indicates falls in value from where they currently are. Now, this information, once again, is updated every month when we run our surveys and models. So this information is currently in preview form and available for those who are accessing the data set. Another tab that's worth noting is we do actually have a feedback form. So if you would like to see other information sets within the system, then that is certainly feasible. And the way to do that is to give us some feedback as to what else you'd like to see. For example, we have quite a lot of information about risk profiles, particularly those used by the bank's underwriting. And possibly we might include risk scores. But what are you interested in? And I'd say to those users who've been accessing the tool since we went live last week that we'd appreciate your feedback, because what we're trying to do here is to build a tool which is going to be super useful for you as users. I'll just mention that there is also another tab which is called the About tab, and there we include some notes about what's happened with regard to each month's data. And that gets you to understand a bit more about the dynamics of what's going on. So this information is currently available to those in the Patreon $50 tier. And in fact, you should have received an email with your login credentials, and you should be able to log in and visit the site. Now, let me just turn to Patreon briefly and discuss the site there. So at the moment, we have 5 tiers of membership. This information is being displayed in Aussie dollar terms. And we have our simple tier at $4.50, the Support More DFA at $14, and the DFA Plus at $34. Each of those provides access to more specific content. Now we also have our $50 or 68 Aussie dollar terms, which is the stress tier. This is the active tier to get into the membership area. And those who sign up and continue to subscribe will be able to access our membership portal. And there is also the really expensive tier, which gives you full access to every scrap of data in our models. Now, my plan is going to be to initially get feedback from those at this tier and look to extend the functionality of the membership area. And it may well be that I will offer exclusive access to the data to other tiers, at least in part, down the track. So keep an eye out for that. Now, in terms of looking forward, my plans are to include more and more functionality in the membership portal. For example, I currently send out an Excel spreadsheet each month to those at the $50 tier. Now, quite soon, rather than me sending out the data, you'll get notification that the data is available for download from our membership area. And there will be some other information coming soon. For example, we will be looking at some comparison tools. So, for example, allowing you to compare a particular postcode with another postcode, or indeed a particular postcode with an area or region or even nationally, because those comparisons are actually very, very interesting. And beyond that, we will be building the data set out and making more information available to our users. So I'd encourage you, if you have access now, to go and have a play, see how it works. And if you spot any bugs, let me know so we can squash them. And if you'd like specific additional information contained within the portal, again, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions as to what else we should include. Now, I'm not trying to make a version of realestate.com.au or domain.com.au. I'm trying to focus in specifically on household finances, the dynamics, and how that impacts projected home prices. But if there are specific additional data sets that you think will be useful, let me know. So finally, just to re-emphasize, if you are not a member of the Patreon program at the $50 or 68 Aussie dollar tier level, and you'd like to get access to our information, all you need to do is to go across to Patreon and sign up. I'll put a link below. And not only will you receive our full spreadsheet of stress and the special offer of price projections, but also you'll get access to the portal on an ongoing basis for as long as you continue to sign up and support us via the Patreon tier. So I hope you found that useful, and do leave comments below if there are specific things you'd like to see going on the portal down the track. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.